Test, check 2. Official audio test. Hello, 1, 2, 1, 2. Test for Love Bank Books. Check. Microphone test. Love Bank Books. Check, check, check. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Running a test. So we have it in, but Danielle is hopping on the computer to make sure we're live now and make sure that we're hearing audio. Yeah. That is, I agree, but never hurts to confirm. Yeah, that can certainly happen. I just don't want to clip that out. Okay. Yeah, should be good there. Let's see. Check 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Check. Checking the mic for Danielle and Love Bank Books. Check is good. Going to mute. See you all in a minute.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for being present with us today for this most beautiful occasion. My name is Shiraz Gorman. I will be your host for today. I'm also the media and marketing promotions person here at Left Bank Books. Left Bank Books was started in 1969, 55 years ago. The person we are honoring today has been here 50 of those 55 years. For 50 years, Kris has served this community by bringing in national authors, international authors, and also local authors like myself. I actually started off as being a shopper and a friend of the bookstore. Then my first published book, Left Bank Books, carried my book here. Had my first author talk in this very space. So we have a gem not only of a business in this city, but we have a gem of a person in Kris. And without further ado, I would like to welcome our mayor and her team. You ready? I would love to welcome Tashara Jones.
So good afternoon, everyone. This is a staple in our community. I remember my love of books came from supporting local bookstores like this one. And you caught me in the middle of a text message, so now I can ask it, if my father's, is your book carried here, Dad? Yes, so. So, yeah, shameless plug. So my love of books came from supporting local bookstores like this one. And Left Bank has been such a staple in our community for so many years. And when I found out that this is 50 years for Left Bank and everything that I had to do today, I said, no, I'm there, which is why I'm so casual today, because Saturday is usually for canvassing and being out in the community. So excuse me that I'm not in my usual red dress. But again, this is very important to give people flowers while they are still here. So I won't belabor this conversation, and I don't read proclamations, but I am honored to honor you today as one of the founders of Left Bank Books with a proclamation declaring today Left Bank Books Day in the city of St. Louis.
This is just a quick thank you for a really meaningful recognition from the fabulous mayor of our fabulous city. I'm really, really honored. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right, so we are going to keep this thing rolling. I would actually like to invite up Alderperson Ann Schweitzer and Michael Browning.
Hello, everyone. Well, we at the city love to give people things to put on their wall, so we have also prepared a resolution at the Board of Aldermen to honor Kris and all her work here. The resolution, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I want to just point out that it's not just about opening a community staple of a bookstore and being a constant presence here in this community, but it's also about the advocacy that Kris has done for other communities, including the LGBTQIA plus community, just showing up and showing out for so many organizations in this city and so many people that are underrepresented, underserved, always putting others before herself. And I think that those of you who work with her can see that product in her everyday work. And so we are here to honor her today and to just appreciate what somebody like Kris brings to St. Louis. So thank you.
Thank you. I'll add, I'm Ann Schweitzer. I have the deep honor and joy of being Kris's alderperson in South St. Louis City. And just a quick story to just honor Kris. You know, moments before this event was to happen, Kris is running around making sure that everyone in this room is comfortable, has a place to be, and feels welcomed in the space. And, you know, when you look around this bookstore and see the community that's joined for Kris, I think we can all recognize just the depth of that she brings to our city. And you can look around the room at the books that are here and the voices that are lifted up and the people who have gotten their start at Left Bank Books and the authors who come here. And it is a deeply important thing that you bring to our community. And I hope that this time today you can let us celebrate you, because you do a good job celebrating everyone else. So thank you, Kris. Can we do a picture with you? Where's Caitlin? Caitlin, can you do? Yep. Yep. Remember, it's about you.
Thank you both so much. I don't think I've bothered you too much, but you are very gracious. I just want to say you're very gracious. And stay tuned.
All right, and actually that is a beautiful segue to mention in the ways that the Left Bank Books Foundation assists our community. I am proud to announce that we have raised and exceeded the $12,000 we were raising for the Summer Kris campaign. And what that campaign allows us to do is that it allows the bookstore to offer free author talks. I will say that again. It allows the bookstore to offer free author talks. And these are authors that come from around the United States. We actually have a gentleman today, shameless plug, we do have a book talk tonight. I believe 6 p.m., 7 p.m. So this author is coming to us from the UK. So but his book is actually set in rural Missouri. So this should be an interesting conversation this evening. So also, the Kris campaign allows us to have the Literacy and Justice Project. This project allows us to give banned books away for free. And for those of us who live in Missouri, understand how Missouri is working, right? So with that being said, please, even though we have exceeded this number for July, please give as much as you can, spread the word that we do provide banned books for free to the public. And then also for River City readers to increase literacy and the love of reading through author events. And this is attached to St. Louis Public Schools, because our children in St. Louis Public Schools deserve to create libraries of their own in their own homes. So Left Bank Books also makes that possible. So now, you do not get to be in business for 55 years and to serve the business for 50 years without a few people wanting to say some things about you. I will ask that we kind of keep these remarks to about 5-7 minutes, because some of you all have very long histories with Kris, which can turn into its own evening book talk. So the first person up is Mark Teeterman. Teeterman, I told you, man, I always do that to your name. Author, former president of the Missouri Center for the Book and Left Bank Books bookseller emeritus. So come on, dude, bring it up.
I wanted to be sure, so I wrote it all down. I was in Kentucky when Amber called to say, would you come and do this? And it's like, oh, let me think about that for about half a second. So, Kris, if we're very lucky, We meet people who just by being who they are make us better. By that, I don't mean better at our jobs or our hobbies, but better people. If luck holds, we keep meeting people who do that. We're complex, we contain much we may never know, and we need others to show us where all those doors to all those rooms are. The people I'm talking about help us open those doors and walk through them. The thing is, you never know when that chance meeting will happen. You cannot prepare. Kris is someone who does that all the time. Just by being who she is and in the world, she has made countless others better. She did that for me. Back in 2008, I think, I found myself in the curious position of being the president of the Missouri Center for the Book, as noted. Even more curious, we suddenly found ourselves tasked with establishing a state poet laureate position. I say curious because I am tone deaf when it comes to poetry, but I had gotten reasonably good at delegating. Here's where life creates confluences. I approached Kris to serve on the selection committee. Now, I'm not even sure how I knew about her. To my shame, I did not shop at Left Bank Books at the time, but I knew about it, and somehow through the, we must be honest. And somehow through the kind of civic osmosis that we live in, I knew it was a cultural nexus. After a little thought, I decided Kris would be perfect for this committee, and I asked. Of course, she said yes. Of course. And she served magnificently. She brought all her exuberance and lived experience to the task, and I breathed constant sighs of relief, and the program was launched with almost no problems. She joined the board, and I started to get to know her. She said yes, even though she had more on her plate than I could imagine. I would like to know what kind of battery she uses. If you have worked with Kris, you know what I'm talking about. Boundless energy, organizational skills to spare, and a marrow deep optimism that what she's doing is worth doing. Fast forward a few years, and I found myself between jobs, and Kris created a position for me. Working out of the downtown location of blessed memory, little by little, I was drawn into the Left Bank Books family, and it is a family. I have never worked anywhere with so many people who love what they do so passionately, felt part of something special, and respond to the good they do in the community with such fervor. And that ecology, if you will, that's Kris. Along the way, incidentally, I became better read. Of course, I now shop at Left Bank Books. But the best part of the whole thing has been the friends discovered, especially Kris. At a time when I didn't know what I was going to do next, she offered me a new possibility. That is, by the way, what a good bookstore is, a world full of possibilities. So thank you. Thank you for being who you are. Thank you for inviting me in. Thank you for your enthusiasm, your optimism, and your service. And thank you for your friendship.
Next, we have Ruth Kim, newly retired General Counsel, SVP, and Senior Partner for Fleischman Hillard, longtime Left Bank Books customer and Left Bank Books Foundation donor.
So you'll have to pardon my using notes. I got a little spoiled during COVID. When I was on computer and Zoom all the time, I could cheat and have notes. So my powers of extemporaneous speaking are somewhat impaired. I'm Ruth Kim, and I get to call Kris a treasured friend. I think I've shopped at this store since the mid-'70s when it was in the Loop, but I didn't know Kris back then because we were both only 2. And even though we probably passed each other in the store, we didn't know each other then. Like the little engine that could, Kris has, by sheer determination, savvy, and some good karma, worked at, supported, and become the inspired and inspiring owner and leader of this award-winning store. A store that hosts more than 200 writer events each year, a store that boasts a staff of knowledgeable and dedicated booksellers who care deeply about serving their reading public, and a store that acts as a gathering place for public discourse and dialogue. It is also a warm and welcoming store that is a peaceful haven to tuck into on a hectic, rainy, or actually any other day to escape into the land of books and imagination. This store is a rare gem, and to the great benefit of all of us in this community, Kris protects it fiercely. I got to know Kris by striking up a random conversation with her in this store, in this location. I don't even know how many years ago that was. And though we are different in a myriad of ways, we somehow became fast and enduring friends for so many, many years. For as long as I have known her, Kris has been independently minded, principled, a tireless small business owner, a free spirit, a die-hard progressive who always fearlessly championed LGBTQIA+ rights, diversity, and inclusivity, and the rights of others who have been marginalized or have been pushed out or pushed aside by society. I, on the other hand, grew up in a Korean version of the Happy Days family. I worked in business and law. I was very safe, straight, corporate, a little dull. Yet I have become a bit more courageous, more of an ally, and more generous in time and treasure because of the influence of people like Kris in my life. I still am not quite as fearless, so I want to tell you a story about that. While Kris may be but a wisp in physical size, do not let that fool you. During some of our city's most fraught times, with fires being set on this very street, Kris physically put her slight frame between an agitated, armed individual brandishing his weapon in front of a group of unarmed protesters. Stunningly, she diffused the potentially heated conflict, and the gunmen left and the group disbanded. I personally was at a book talk when an intruder rushed the stage. He was really agitated, and it was very scary. And my instinct was to duck down behind the pew that I was sitting behind. Kris, however, almost reflexively thrust herself, her tiny little self, between the intruder and the speaker. And again, she de-escalated an extraordinarily heated situation to return it to the program. While I was a bit shaken, I was more in awe of how quickly she calmed the conflict and was able to calm the really turbulent waters. In challenging situations, Kris focuses not on her own ego or stature, but on the best outcome for everyone involved in that situation. Over the years, she has channeled her righteous indignation to battles and adventures that matter to the people and community that she values and loves. I am happy and blessed to say that we have shown up for each other at bookstore, civic, and charitable events, at our fabulous, if short-lived, writing group. It was more of an eating and cooking group, but we did talk about our writing. At weddings, funerals, ceremonies, in person, at home, or on late-night calls of support, sympathy, celebration, through business, career, family, and friendship trials and tribulations that have been joyous, tragic, stressful, sometimes seemingly insurmountable, sometimes frightfully successful, but most often transformative. Through much of this, I watched Kris with inestimable admiration and affection for the person she is. Kris is a leonine protector of her family, a compassionate and steadfast friend through thick and thin, a gifted writer, a terrific chef, which I am so lucky to have been the beneficiary of, a rogue gardener, a jock, because I don't know if you know this, but she was a track and field gold medal winner at the 1994 Gay Games in New York City. So in essence, she is a multifaceted Renaissance woman and an all-around badass. I end these comments with what I think is the finest compliment I can ever give to another human being, and that is this. Having Kris as my friend makes me want to be a better person and to do better. Having that kind of effect on people around you can change the world. Thank you so much, Kris. You make all the difference.
Next, we have Stephen Lewis Brawley, public historian, founder of the St. Louis LGBTQ History Project, and executive vice president of the Area Resources for Community and Human Service, ARCHES, and fellow author. Also, shameless plug. If you have not been to the Missouri History Museum, please go check out the Gateway to Pride exhibition that Kris is also featured in.
Good afternoon. My notes are on my phone, so let's hope it went to sleep on me already. So I apologize because there's too much to say. I don't want to miss anything. A little bit of history. Let's go back. So Left Bank opened in 1969, but it was not on this location. It was on Delmar, correct? Delmar and Skinker, and then moved. And Kris joined the family in 1974. And then they moved here in 1977. Did I get that right? Okay. So by then, the Central West End was what we now call a neighborhood. And today, it's historically, I might say historically, on par with what we kind of know as the neighborhoods that we hear about, the Castro, the Village. But the West End, historically, is an epic neighborhood. Home to Williams, Burroughs, Chopin, bars, restaurants. The first LGBTQ community center was just down the block, about half a block. And it's also the site of Trinity. And for those of you who don't know, 2 years ago we were blessed and honored that Trinity was named a National Historic Registry site for many reasons, but it was specifically nominated and won the award because of its LGBTQI plus history and as a service to the community starting back in the 50s and 60s, where it was a place of safety and security and affirmation for the queer community. All that happened, and then Left Bank moved in. And Left Bank has been an anchor for this neighborhood ever since, and Kris has been a fearless champion of that. By 1977, Kris was well on her way to a lifetime journey as a business leader, queer feminist advocate, author, writer, journalist. Her pioneering role with the Women's House Collective, Moonstorm Magazine, Women's Coffee House, Red Tomato, or Tomato? Tomato. I was trying to make it fancy, trying to fancy it up. And as we just heard, she was the leading force that created what is called today Team St. Louis, which was originally the group that got us St. Louis to the gay games. And Kris helped organize that, and they traveled the world, Australia, correct?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, okay. But she is a medal winner, so we got a medal winner right here with us. Her business acumen demonstrates her tenacity, steadfastness, determination to ensure that independent bookstores like Left Bank Books not only survive, but thrive. Left Bank continues the legacy of other queer bookstores, the Women's Eye, Our World 2, and today, through Kris's leadership, Left Bank stands the test of time, hosting presidents and poets. I met President Carter right over there and had a amazing conversation with him talking. It was around Christmas time, and he was like, oh yeah, Rosalind and Amy want to go on this cruise, and I'm not too thrilled about it, but I'm going to go because I want to go. I mean, just amazing experience that, happened right over there in the next room. So now Kris continues her journey, and there is so much work left to do. And now she is helping us chronicle and preserve our own local LGBTQA plus history, as we mentioned at the museum, the exhibit, making sure that we have all the stories written down. Kris is one of those in my orbit that every time we have a meaningful conversation or interaction, I hear a new story that must be preserved. It's hard to keep up. I know Kris still has a lot of history making in her. We need her now more than ever. I want to personally thank her for supporting my author journey and having my first author event here and inviting me back frequently. So thank you for your amazing grit and passion. We love you and congratulations. Thank you.
Next, I would like to welcome Dr. Letitia A. Smith, Deputy Chief of Student Support Services with St. Louis Public Schools and children's author.
Hello, everyone. In true speaker fashion, I too have a set of notes. I can't blame mine on COVID. Mine is because I'm much closer to 50 than I ever will be again to 40. And sometimes I may start a sentence and forget in the middle where I'm going with it. So I want to make sure that I write everything down that I want to say. So school districts all across the state are seeking services to provide the best quality education to their students. St. Louis Public Schools is no exception. I joined St. Louis Public Schools 12 years ago, where I was introduced to the services of Left Bank Books. It is a relationship that has certainly grown over this time. Also, saying that out loud made me realize that's my longest lasting relationship, so Kris, you might have to find me a book to grapple with this a little later. But when I started St. Louis Public Schools, I was shown the process for engaging services. I was shown how each business had a vendor number and was referred to as a vendor. As my relationship with the store, and more namely Kris, grew, it was clear that vendor was not the correct term that I would use. Kris was a partner, and I soon grew to share and refer to my partner Kris at Left Bank Books with every new person that came into the district that needed services. People would say, we're doing a book study. I would say, let me introduce you to my partner Kris over at Left Bank Books. We need to have this title for our new mentors. Let me introduce you to my partner, Kris, over at Left Bank Books. Or we need a quote for 100 copies of this text. I got just the right person, my partner, Kris, over at Left Bank Books. And Kris delivered every time. So not only did Kris partner with us on this, but I personally learned from Kris as she poured into me as an author. I learned about the consignment program. I learned about and was able to successfully do my own book talk at Schlafly Library back last April. I also recently learned from her that there is a world outside of Amazon, and I'm sure some of you was just as shocked as I was when you learned that from her too. But in that, she learned that there was other publishing outlets that will help me beat my own personal goals as an author, to be able to have a greater reach in the book market. As a result, Kris, all of my titles are now available through Ingram Spark, so thank you for that. This has allowed me to have just as great a chance to expand my reach in the same manner that Kris has done for so many here today. Before I conclude my speech, I want to say, where's Amber? I think Amber gave me some incorrect directions. She told me my speech had to be 2 minutes. So to keep this program equitable, I think when I'm done here, I'm going to serenade Kris with I'm Every Woman by Shaka Khan for my last 3 minutes. And don't worry, I'm pretty okay. My voice is somewhere between like a feral cat and Lizzo, so we'll make it work. Okay. Kris, you have been an exceptional partner to the education community and to educators like me. I salute you, Kris, and all the work you have done on behalf of Left Bank Books. I look forward to strengthening the partnership with even more years to come. May God, or whomever you serve, blessings rain down upon you in such abundance you won't have room enough to receive it. Thank you. I'm every woman.
Okay. Not a feral cat and Lizzo. Did anybody else like imagine that and like start singing it in your head and it's like, oh my, please don't do that. So the next person who I will invite up to the stage is Fran Levine, former CEO and president of the Missouri Historical Society and Missouri History Museum and author.
up, y'all, because Kris needs to be able to refer to this picture in the future. So let's see. Y'all are here. Kris, you're here. Right. My years living in Texas, they scarred me forever. Thank you, Shiraz. Thanks so much. Kris and I met in 2019 when we were each named to a cohort of influential businesswomen by the St. Louis Business Journal. I had been in St. Louis for 5 years. I knew about Left Bank Books. Kris hates when I say this, but I never felt quite cool enough to be here. But where are we today? I hadn't met Kris yet, but as we lined up in alphabetical order, Kris rose in front of me, and we were both a little incredulous that we were about to receive recognition as influential businesswomen. We joked and talked about, and by the time we crossed the stage, we were new best friends. In the years that followed, so much changed in all of our lives. And through those life trials, our friendship became an important source of support for each other. Kris is an extraordinarily empathetic person, as you've heard, and she shows that in so many ways to staff, to customers, to friends and neighbors. During the pandemic, I don't know if you know this, that Kris actually delivered books. If you ordered books online, you could open the door and Kris would be standing there with your books. I thought it was pretty just amazing. She and I spoke almost daily as a way of coping with the isolation that could have been activating against events for any of us. We talked about books and recipes, and when Kris had her heart attack, I tried to be as supportive as I could be. I can't look at you. Just as she was to me when my brother died unexpectedly. She cooked, and I lose my voice very often because of allergies, and she makes the world's best chicken and rice soup. She's vegan. And she carries it to my house in jars so I can freeze it. It's better than any allergy medicine they give me. As you might expect from her devotion to Left Bank Books, Kris is a reader. She's introduced many of us to new authors and reminded us of things that we ought to have read, but not in that snarky way that well-read people can be. Kris is also a fine writer, and many of you have likely read her passionate opinion pieces responding to injustice and censorship. She has authored essays and lectured on behalf of literacy, free speech, gay and intersectional issues. She's been an advocate for so many issues and a seer with the gifts of divination and creativity to hear and respond to these fraught times that we're living in. Her values have been tested again and again. Why are you making me cry? But she's forged Left Bank as the home of literacy and justice for all. She's a writer with a gift for observation and reflection. Her postings from the Rogue Garden are lovely morning meditations and beautiful examples, a love for gardens and birds, all of which takes some patience and practice. Me? I would have done away with that woodchuck a long time ago. And the critters and gophers and crows in your garden, they would have been history. She's a generous writer, and she shares and listens to other writers. She's done all this while nurturing a generation of booksellers and readers. And the booksellers who work for her, you are studying with the best. Thank you, Kris, for your special gifts of advocacy. Don't look at me. And for caring for the written and spoken word. You are a treasure, and we're here today to celebrate you and the work you have done to create Left Bank Books here on the banks of the Mississippi in St. Louis.
The next person I would like to invite to the stage is our very own Danielle King. general manager at Left Bank Books.
Thank you, Fran. I will not be looking at Kris this entire time. Great. Yeah, no, I'm going to beeline right at you. So I get to stand up here and I get to speak on behalf of the countless booksellers who have been influenced by this person, and that's no small feat. 4.5 years ago, I fell into the purpose of my life by picking up a part-time job at this amazing bookstore. It took me longer than you would guess to know that that's what I'd done, and I was kind of surprised by how I figured it out. I didn't know Kris when she saw me bossing everybody around and yelling at them to go to lunch on Independent Bookstore Day when we opened back up after the pandemic quarantine. But you really get to know a person in a particular way working in a bookstore, and at this bookstore that has been through nearly everything, you are going to see folks at their very best to their absolute worst, and somewhere in between those two extremes lies the truth of them. It was my first real interaction with Kris that started to clue me in to the idea that I was exactly where I was supposed to be. She looked me in the eye and said definitely words. I couldn't tell you what they were. There were thousands of people in here. I have no idea what she said. I barely heard it, but I was being encouraged, and I'll always remember that feeling. It was very similar to the first time she sat me down for the first of several promotions. The trust that she was placing in me was a palpable thing, and it feels incredible to have Kris put her trust in you. I feel so lucky, so incredibly blessed that I have gotten to know the truth of this person. That has come through working with her day to day, learning everything I could ever want to about how to run a bookstore, and a lot I'd rather not know. I'm very familiar with flood protocols. But it's also been through getting to meet the truly innumerable booksellers, local and around this country, who have been inspired by her principles and her dogged refusal to be shut up about what she believes in. Kris has what you might call one hell of a gut, and I have benefited from so many of her instincts. Who she is as a bookseller is the truest glimpse into who she is as a person. In my experience, few people believe in other folks with more fierceness. Few people exhibit care with such abandon. I have been so constantly impressed by so much of what she does. The kindness and depths of compassion she will show when she has a mountain of stuff to do, but a customer who hasn't come by the store in a few years comes by to say hi. The loyalty and the fierce protectiveness that she inhabits on behalf of every bookseller at this store. And frankly, every bookseller, period. The curiosity that she has for the world that has only increased in the mere handful of years I've gotten to know her. I'm preceded by people who have known her for much longer. I think Fran even, like a couple years right behind you. And the resilience to stand so firmly on her principles of empathy and cooperation and justice, a commitment to building a better society that truly impacts everything she does, but also everything we do as a bookstore. Yep, that's right. That's nice. I got a little amen chorus. Thank you. But Kris has, for years, longer than I've known her, set a profound example for booksellers everywhere, truly, genuinely everywhere. Okay, for this part, I kind of do have to look at you, but look away. I have said it to you plenty of times. I could only work at this bookstore. I could only work for you. At this place you created, that cradles the monumental legacy you have wrought, this safe haven for the queerest queers and the weirdest weirdos and the nerdiest nerds, but also every kind of person who ever thought they couldn't belong somewhere, but who was also a little too curious to not wonder what was going on at that little place on the corner, as I imagine several people walking by are like, what is going on in there today? It is from you that I learned what a bookstore truly is and what it truly can be. And I'm not exaggerating when I say that that is the essential kindling to the fire in my heart every single day. You taught me how and gave me all the room in the world to become a capital B bookseller, and I will never be able to thank you enough. It is truly the great honor of my life to serve this community of the greatest damn booksellers on planet Earth with you, and I will never be able to repay what I feel I must owe you for not just building a place that I could call home, but for welcoming me into it with open arms, boundless patience, and an evergreen invitation to dinner, because Fran's right, the vegan food whips. Kris, I love you, and I'm very, very excited that I get to be up here and help you and celebrate this day. And I can't wait to read your book.
Thank you, Danielle. And everybody heard what Danielle said, right? Whichever one you want to write first. We are waiting on it. And without further ado. Oh, that's sweet. You thought you weren't going to speak. Oh, that's cute. Everybody, let's welcome Kris.
Wow. Wow. Thank you so much. I don't even know who all is here. Okay, so I hyperventilated a lot already. I'm much more comfortable introducing an author and standing in the back and taking pictures. And I'm freezing in this room. Okay, hold on. All right. Is that better? You look great. Yeah, let's do that. Okay. I definitely wrote it down. Oh. Just for the pictures. Yeah. Absolutely. Okay. All right. So 5 months after some anti-war activist Washington University students opened Left Bank Books at the corner of Skinker and Delmar, my family moved into a house a block away. I was 15. The first interaction I had with Larry Cogan, may his memory be a blessing, was asking him for books about witchcraft. What I meant was books about the history of the persecution of single women with cats in Europe. True. But Larry missed my point and kind of smirked, telling me, we don't carry those kind of books yet. When he hired me in 1974, okay, sorry. I soaked up the store's ambience, books by Black poets and activists, offerings on socialism, anti-colonialism, communism, radical psychiatry, Southeast Asia, mimeographed position papers debating the finer points of Marxism hung on a rack and sold for a nickel and a dime. I worked to expand the store's selection of books on feminism and what was then called gay liberation. I never intended for this to be my forever job. In my mind, I was going to be a writer. I actually did write a column for over 25 years, first for the St. Louis Today newspaper, and then for the various incarnations of the Gay News Telegraph, all as a volunteer. I kept my day job and tried to stay in relationships where the other person made a living. I didn't always succeed. So why did I specifically keep this day job? You. You are why I kept this job. Yes, I own the store, which, and I'm going to now start crying for the rest of this, which mainly means I'm the one who the banks will come after. But I've been entrusted with this incredible responsibility as a steward for a place that keeps our stories, the stories we need, stories of us, stories we live, stories that define us, inspire us, and give us solace, joy, and courage. I'm humbled by this responsibility, even on days when it feels like I mostly break down boxes and fend off loan sharks. Because this is not really my store, it is the community's store. Everything I do is in service to you. The first or second year I worked here, a young high school girl used to stop in and talk to me about being a lesbian. Her parents hated that she was gay. She was bullied at school. We were her safe place. Melissa. She was my regular, my first regular. I don't even remember if she ever bought anything. Melissa didn't make it. She ended her life before she graduated. This had a profound effect on me and clarified my sense of what being a bookseller actually means. To this day, I work to keep and hold this space so that I never lose any more of you. So that all the Melissas will always have a safe and welcoming space. So that all the confused parents of all the Melissas will have a resource to figure this shit out. So that another black mother in Ferguson, Missouri, or Sangamon County, Illinois, does not have to live with the memory that a police officer gunned down her child. I want everybody to be able to come in this store and to be met where they are now and supported to get where they need or want to be. Whole, hopeful, joyful, seen, safe, wanted, and loved. That is the job of a bookseller. In spite of everything, we are all, most of us, still here. And I'm thankful every single day. You, my dear St. Louis community, are awesome, resilient, fabulous, in every way. I'm proud to serve you. I'm not going to talk about money, but I will thank all of you who have supported us financially and considerably over the years. Keeping the lights on and the doors open, as Barry used to say, is the number one task, and you've made that possible more times than I can count. A huge, huge thanks goes to everyone who ever worked here. I know I can be a bit much. I want you to know that I learned something from every single one of you to this day. Ditto to all of my business partners through the years, Barry Liebman, Justin James, Lisa Greening, Jarek Steele. What a long, strange trip this has been. I didn't plan on being the last one standing, but the only reason I can do it without you is that I did it with you. So thank you. Paper. Massive thanks to the current staff, not only for giving me this day, which is all they're doing. I had nothing to do with this, and I'm blown away. But for representing this place with such dignity and heart and passion and intelligence and empathy. You challenge me, call my bluff, and even sometimes, maybe a lot of the time, extend your grace to me when I make mistakes. You show up for your community. Thank you. It's been a joy to work with my people in the indie bookstore community, my publishing friends, some of whom are here, amazingly, and all of you authors. I can't believe I get to run with the big dogs. I know this is a fraught and scary time, but that means it is also a time of great promise and hope. We've been through a lot these last 50 years, and each time we do come out better. I love you all so much. So let's go have some cake. Thank you.
Thank you all for attending this afternoon. And while Kris does not like to talk about money, I do. Because we have some very real needs in the community. As I've stated earlier, we have reached our goal for the Kris campaign. However, the true number to serve the community through the offerings that Left Bank Books has is over $100,000 annually. I will say that again. It is over $100,000 annually to make sure that we can provide author talks that are free and open to the public, as well as making sure that children in St. Louis public schools have access to books so they can start building a library, especially in this climate where books are being banned, where curriculum is being changed, and children are being forced to actually interact more with technology than a handheld book. And then also, as I mentioned earlier, about our banned books. So to be able to provide those for free, to ship them, and I know to some people in this room where it's like, oh, $100K is nothing. However, when you're an independent bookstore, that is a lot of money. So I ask of you all to please be generous throughout the year. Let people know, inform people about the different offerings of Left Bank Books, and come to a book talk. Like I said, tonight, we have an author in from the UK, and then also we do partner with ticketed events. And we do have James Patterson, author James Patterson, and Mike Lupica coming to the Two Hill on July 31st. So if you can support that event, you are supporting Left Bank Books and our ability to continue to serve the community. So once again, I've been your host, Shiraz Gorman. I also handle marketing and media relations, but I will actually ask all of the employees to come to the front. Y'all should have known I was going to do it. All the employees of Left Bank Books, please come to the front. Randy, Shane, I will start calling people. Yes. So there are people who could not be here today, but yeah, thank you.
I do work here in street.
But these are the amazing booksellers. And we say thank you.
Thank you all for coming.
So let's go have some cake and adult beverages. Oh, last note. Last note about the Kris campaign. If you see this, you can scan the QR code to donate. If you see this flyer, you can scan the QR code to donate.